on the seam. I'm going to use the little tip. And just like with the link, I'm not going to heat where the solder is. I'm going to heat above it till the flux dries. You'll see the flux get powdery. And then you're going to kind of go right in and out. Carefully, you don't want to melt this. Oh, just did it. Okay. You'll quench it, flip your bricks. And try it around your stone. Now what you want to do, the stone is going to make it into the right shape. We made it like kind of an oddball shape, but right now you're going to make it round again, and then you're going to put your stone in from the top and make sure it's not too tight. This is a little tight and a little crooked, both of which can be fixed. I'm going to push it in and out a little bit to make it loose. You want it so that the stone just goes right in. You don't want to have to force the stone in, because once you solder this to the base, there's no movement at all. Okay, you're stuck with it. So you want to make sure that it fits just right. Now mine is a little bit crooked, so I'm just going to take it on the file. This is kind of a rough file, but take it on the file, or you could take it on the little sandpaper block and just make sure that it's nice and even. It's got to be perfect, because if there's a little unevenness on your seam, when you solder it to the base, it's not going to solder down all the way, and all of this shows around your stone. Are you watching, or did you have a question?
I'm just waiting to solder.
You can't today. There's no soldering today. I guess you weren't here when I said that. Okay, so of course I'd like a mandrel to make this perfectly round, but I'll use my finger. I'll put my stone in.
That's
And
in the video then.
You should pay attention, because you should make a ring. It's a great thing for your AP. All right, so I'm pushing this in to make sure that the shape is round. As a matter of fact, would you get me a ring mandrel, please? You have to make this perfect. In there, it's the mandrel that's tapered. Okay. This, once it's soldered onto the base, you can't alter. Thank you. No, the other one. I can use that one too later, but. There's a whole bunch of different ones, but this one is all straight for each size. This one is on an angle. It's just easier to put your bezel around it. Now, if you wanted to stretch it a little, if it were too tight, you could press it in and kind of twist it down a little bit. This metal is so soft, you can easily alter the size. All right, this is pretty good. I'm just gonna put it on here, make it perfectly round. I'm going to turn it over too and do it the other way. All right, so now when I put my stone into it, I did stretch it a bit, but it'll be fine. Now I've got to connect this to a base. What I decided to do, which I've never done before, is I took my base. Everyone's going to get one of these, and you can do whatever you want with it. I decided I was going to make a round base, and I'm a little undecided whether I wanted to put one of these slotted, here I have this one here, This is a piece of twisted wire that has a little slot in it that you could put this in and wrap it around your bezel base, so that you've got this little decorative thing, which I think would look pretty cool if you had like the twisted wire for the ring shank. And this would go here and that would go around it. So I think maybe I'm going to try that. The other thing I was going to try is I bought that triangular wire, which I was playing with before, but it's not here, so never mind, I won't use it. Oh, here it is, which is really very cool. It also has a slot in it. So what you would do with this, I think, would be to cut it perfectly and set it up around your bezel base and then just solder it closed. But that will come after you do your bezel. All right, so now you have two options. You can either just solder this on to here and file it down nice and flat, or do what I'm going to try to do now. When you're ready to do your bezel wrap onto your bezel base, you've got to clean this with steel wool. You don't have a whole lot of chances. You want it to work right away. So I'm cleaning it with steel wool because it's oily. It's right from the store. Who knows who's touched it. You're going to take a mallet, because you don't want to stretch this, and you're not wailing on this. You don't want to make dents in it. You just want to make sure that all the edges are flat. Then you're going to make sure that your bezel wrap sits flat onto it. I still have that little bit of an unevenness, so I'm going to file it. Make sure that it fits all the way around. Sometimes it fits better. I can see it's uneven. Ugh. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on my soldering block. I'm going to put flux all over this. You don't want a lot of flux piled up. You want your flux just wetting the whole thing. You really need to sit over here and pay attention, okay? It's not fair. Now, what solder do we use for this? We used hard for the first connection, so now we go to medium. What we're going to do is we're going to use a bunch of pieces of medium. Like maybe for this, I think I'm going to use about 8 little pieces, because you don't know where the solder is going to run to and make your connection. So I'm going to cut a whole bunch of little pieces. You don't want big pieces, because by the time the big piece melts, you'll probably melt your bezel wrap. All right, so you just want little pieces, but lots of them. And see, I cut a whole bunch, and I'm probably going to use about a little handful. What do I have here? I'm going to use a lot. I'm going to put them in, and I can take a pick and kind of push them around to the edges. Maybe you want to come videotape closer while I do this. Would you like to? So weird thinking about being videotaped, because when I listen to my voice, I sound like my mother. It's like, how did this happen? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but ugh, what a voice. Now I'm going back to the regular tip for this, all right? So I've got like 3, 6, I think I have like 12 teeny tiny pieces in there. And it's pretty critical that you don't heat anywhere near there until the flux dries, because the flux will start to boil, and all of a sudden your solder is going to be popping like popcorn all over the place. So I'm drying my flux, drying my flux, drying my flux. Hello? This is not going on the noodle side. Drying my flux. It's getting dry, you can see. Pretty soon it's going to be cloudy and powdery. Oops, did you see how it kind of boiled a little? All right, it's getting a little cloudy and all right, the silver's turning brown. I'm going around and around. Ooh, it's melting. Ooh, it's melting. Ooh, it's melting. It's turning pink. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to quench it. Flip my brick. Now, I want to make sure that this connected all the way around. Can you see what it looks like? This is what it looks like now. All right? It's really cool. The silver melted and hopefully it ran all around the seam. So the only way I figured out how to do it is to kind of hold it up to the light and bend it back and see if you see any light. And I don't see any light. Wahoo! This was good. How much time do we have? We go till 1/4 after?
15.
Great, I can keep on going. All right, so I've got my bezel wrap attached to the base. Now this is really, really critical. Do not put the stone in. Look. Don't put the stone in the bezel cup. 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 What will happen if you put the stone in the bezel cup? It'll get stuck because it's a perfect fit. You don't want to put the stone in the bezel cup because when you go to do any more soldering, you'll burst your stone. So you have to trust that all the measurements you did before this work. Put your stone away. Everybody does it, but don't do it, okay? Because you'll be sorry. Should I try this? I think I'll try this because I think it's cool. All right, so what I need is something that's about the size of that base. This is a new addition to what we've been doing, and I think it's a good one. Would you get me the bolt cutter? Please, quickly. Thanks, sweetie.
No problem.
I'm going to do my best to cut the right size. Technically, you should do this with a saw, because the bolt cutter may squish the end. And it did, so I'm going to wait on this. But anyway, let's see what it would look like if I did do it. All right, once I stretched it out, I think it would look pretty cool around here. So I think I'm going to do it. But I'll do it after I do the ring shank because I'm going to do the other one. All right, so now you've all chosen your ring shank.